this. Whose decision do you think it was to make Kenny Gainwell more of a focal point of the offense than Dallas Goedert? Whose coaching decision is that? Or is that a front office decision? You know why Kenny Gainwell's being used more? They're trying to limit Jalen Hurts' ability to run the ball. You think Kenny Gainwell's more of a threat in the run game than Jalen Hurts? What is Jalen's grade without coaches? Okay, very good, senor. Think about it. So Nick Sirianni, you say, is 100% behind Kenny Gainwell. Nick Sirianni has no say at all as a head coach. Zero. Do you actually think that he hired and signed and worked out that cornerback that you just signed? That's a Howie move. Howie tells you who plays on that team. Howie puts the people on that team. Nick doesn't. It was Howie's call to draft Jalen Carter. It was Howie's call to get rid of Isaac Seumalo. It was Howie's call to bring in Hassan Reddick. It was Howie's call to hire Brian Johnson. It was Howie's call to bring in Sean Desai. Had nothing to do with Nick. So, with all that being said, why wouldn't he have a say in the philosophy and the approach of how those talents are to be used? You have to understand why I have an ass with that decision-making process. Is that not the GM's job? No. The GM's job, according to Kevin Colbert, who is a dear friend of mine, have been on this program numerous times, is to work with the coach, not above the coach. Sundays are yours. Practices are yours. I give you the talent. I give you the players. You're there to formulate what kind of approach you want to use with the coaching staff. Bill Polian used to say this to Tony Dungy when Dungy got fired in Tampa. And Tony Dungy's been on our program. You know what he said to him? What's a Tony Dungy type of player? What kind of guy do you want in here? What kind of player do you want to have on your defense? What kind of offense do you want to run? Tony said, let's keep Tom Moore. They're very happy with the offense. Tony didn't want to upset the offense. Why should he? It's prolific. Yet Wayne, Harrison, he wasn't looking to change anything, but he wanted more team speed. Did you ever notice when Dungy was in Indianapolis, the team became smaller? Why? Because they ran to Tampa 2. Very few teams were running to Tampa 2. You have to have linebackers like Derek Brooks who could play to run, who could drop back into coverage and cover tight ends and backs. Those are rare breeds to find. So Polian went around looking for the ID. It's kind of like a serial killer profile with the FBI guy. Nobody gives a shit what the name is on the back of the jersey. You put all of that into a meat grinder, and a particular name comes out who fits your system. The system your coach wants to run. In Philly, they run a system the GM and the organization wants you to run. That's why nothing has changed, and it's predictable now. Am I wrong? This season, Jalen Hurts hasn't cost us any games yet, but he hasn't taken over and had to win us any games either. I think any B grade is fair for now. I didn't ask you that question, but I think he's a B plus with all the bullshit he's got in his head. What philosophy does Nick even bring to Philly? Cheerleading. Nick is the most expendable person in the Philadelphia locker room. Look at your previous coaches. If you could fire Andy Reid and Doug Peterson, what's he to it? He's not a play caller. Oh, wait. It was his decision, according to you, on having Gainwell more part of the offense. When he was the play caller, the team was 2-5. Let's see what else. It was his decision to run the ball late in games. Jesus, I would never want that guy to run my offense. I don't think it's him. I think he's doing it because of the guys upstairs. Because that's what they want. Comes out in a press conference and tells you that. I got to get Angelo on tomorrow. He comes into a press conference and tells you Brian Johnson's doing a great job. Really? He ain't the CEO. Howie's the CEO. He's a guy that works in a department. Nick Sirianni is not the CEO. Howie's the CEO. How he delegates, hires, fires, promotes, evaluates, and is involved in the roster on Sundays. Who in the world who in their right mind would think, hey, do me a favor, Tone. How many touches does Kenny Gainwell have this year? Catching and running the ball. Carries and catches. How many does Gainwell have this year so far? And how many does Goedert have? I'll even go with targets. I'll even, besides catches, I'll even give Dallas Goedert the targets. Okay? I'll give him the targets. Who's touched the ball more in the first month of the season? I want to know. Has it been Gainwell or Goedert? I can promise you this. Only reason Travis Kelce doesn't have bigger numbers is because Travis Kelce's the only guy in that Kansas City offense, and he missed game one. Okay? But the kid Pacheco's not bad. Seriously. Kenny Gainwell? Gainwell has 32 carries. Goedert has 19 targets. It's almost 2-1. Because I'm sure he only has 17 catches for 88 yards? Kenny Gainwell has touched the ball in the first month of the season more than your all-pro tight end. Who's coaching that? Who is coaching that? Who's coaching that Kenny Gainwell, if you put him anywhere else in the league, I don't know if he makes the roster. So you have a backup running back with more impact in the game or the first month of the season than a $15 million Pro Bowl tight end. Oh, you bet it's the GM. You know how you know this? What's the golden rule? Does everybody know what the golden rule is in the NFL? Honestly, this staff should be drug tested for this sad reality we're in. Thank you, Tone. Tone goes like this. I can't believe this comparison. What's the golden rule in the NFL? If you pay him, you play him. You got Kenny Gainwell with more opportunities to impact the game than a guy who's making $15.5 million. Him. Dude, I could see Swift having more. I totally could see Swift. This is all about protecting and going conservative with Jalen Hurts. Those 32 carries are Hurts' carries. They gave him the Gainwell. Don't you see it? They're trying to establish. That's why the word is they're looking for another running back. You know why they're looking for another running back? They're looking for another power back. You know why? Those 32 carries are Jalen Hurts' carries. But they've shifted him to a guy who's not quite Jalen Hurts. You're never going to find Jalen Hurts' 3rd and 11 is electric, fearful, scary to defend. Scary to defend. Just win. Yeah, just win. You're not a Super Bowl team right now the way you're thinking. How about this? Tone, everyone, wouldn't you agree? It's not that you're not a Super Bowl team. You don't have a Super Bowl mentality right now as a coaching staff. Wait, hold on now, Sil. How he believes in following the money. He drafted and paid Goedert, so I feel like he would want Goedert to get touches over Gainwell, not at the expense of $55 million. Those carries being taken away or to protect the $55 million. Goddard's 15? Sure. That's not much of a disaster if Goedert's out. If Hurts is out, you have $55 million of a quarterback who's an impactful player on the bench or in the tent. I'd rather have Goedert in the tent and in the bench or in the locker room or on IR than that guy. So the carries, they're looking at it carries-wise. Okay? They're looking at it carries-wise. They're trying to protect this guy instead of letting the guy play. There's no excuse for Gainwell to have 32 touches. Okay? Yeah, I mean, Tone, they've sacrificed Dallas Goedert for Jalen not having to run the ball as much. That's why they're establishing this other guy. And that's why the word is they're looking for another running back. Running back? I'd be like this. What's wrong with Swift? And shit, you're trying to establish Gainwell. What's the issue here? You need another safety, dog. That guy, Terrell Edmonds, can't play. I don't know what you're talking about here.